Yes. I think some people are inherently good and some people are inherently evil. I've run across the evil people and they really have no compassion or empathy for other humans. And they're the ones who commit crimes and take advantage of other people. But I believe, like Anne Frank, that people are really good inside and that there will be more good people who rule the world, who affect change in the world, who make life better, ultimately.
It really depends on the context of what you mean by good or evil, because, I mean, that stuff is very malleable over time. Like, we can look at societies like the Mayan society and them sacrificing hearts for the gods, really, and if we were to, like, put that in today's society, if you were in the United States, that would be considered evil, but to them, they thought it was good, so it just really it just really depends on like what we were born into, because we never have a choice of exactly what we're born into, circumstances, what we look like, or like the values and morals and ethics we were raised with. It's all really subjected to environment. We never really had a choice to start with. So it's just like, I think in the context of good or evil, I think we just really need to start from the basis of human connection and just on the basis of pleasure, but I don't want to get in depth on hedonism and all of that, but really on just like what is morally good in terms of helping a human being and just knowing exactly what those genuine emotions are.
Oh, that's a good question, and I have contemplated that many times. I'm going to say there's some of each, because I don't think you can overgeneralize and say some are good and some are evil, because we're all created. Nothing happens without intent. Therefore, we are a creation. Whoever wants to argue that, go ahead, I don't care. We are all created through different channels, in my opinion, different channels by different forces, and some of those forces are positive and some of them are not positive. So, light brings life and creation, darkness brings destruction and decreation, so to speak, and there are some of each, in my opinion, at the soul energetic level.
Both, I would say both. If you're a child and let's say you have a sister, you love your sister, right? So that's good, and you're doing good stuff for your sister, that's good. But then someone, like, I don't know, like a neighbor goes and messes with your sister, and that gets you upset, and because you want to do good for your sister and you want to protect your sister, you do something bad to the neighbor. But you're really young, like you're 6 or 7, but you do go there and hit him or something like that. You've seen kids doing stuff like that, or even for pride and stuff. So like when you say kids, all love and all that stuff, it's not really true though. I mean, it's complicated. You gotta have a little bit of maturity and intelligence to be good. That's what I believe.
Gotta think about that for a second. Environment has a lot to do with, and like upbringing has a lot to do with someone's like mindset and personality. I think that like the way someone was raised. Actually, you know what? Cut that out. I have something else better. Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard the story of the 2 twins with the alcoholic father? So basically there were these 2 twins. One grew up, let me start over. So there was these 2 twins with an alcoholic, abusive father. One twin grew up to be exactly like his father, didn't live up to anything, was an alcoholic just like his father. And then the other twin, he grew up to be a successful, like, billionaire, whatever you want, just a successful businessman. And when people ask the first twin, like, why are you this way? Like, why are you in this state? Like, he replied with, like, it's because I watched my father. And when they asked the second twin the same question, how'd you become so successful? Why are you like in this state? He replied with the same answer. It's because I watched my father. Your perspective of your like environment changes the way like your mindset kind of changes, if you know what I mean. And so like I think that are humans inherently good or evil? I think it's not as simple as like a yes or no answer. It's like so many outside variables that play into it,
Oh, that's a good one. Inherently, we are evil. But that ties back to the God thing. We see the sinful nature of man. If you have God's love in you, you can overcome that by having His love and not having that hate and all the bad virtues, slothfulness and envy and hate. So you may not like what somebody does, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you just give them the love right back, and love beats hate. hate doesn't beat hate. It just grows and festers, and it's not good. So the sinful nature is in all of us, and we have to fight that by having love in it, in our hearts, in our minds, so we can love one another. It's all about love, man. Can you tell I'm a 50s child? I went through the 60s, a little young, but there was some goodness out of that. Goodness everywhere. If you seek God and put Him first, there you go. That's the key. Love one another, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Life is strange. It is strange. So.
Humans are most likely sentient at some time in their life after birth, and they are as they make themselves. So they're neither good nor bad. It's happiness or sadness. It's all your personal paradigm that you make for yourself. So some people are really religious in that, they believe that. And some people are whatever. It's everything that you make in your mind. That's the life you live.
Humans are inherently good. I think evil is a learned thing. I feel like you can generally trust people more than most people would think strangers can be trusted. So like growing up in the suburbs, my parents grew up in Philly, so they think the Philly's like very dangerous, and so they can be worried about me like roaming the streets at night and whatnot. I'm not saying there's no danger, like there are, especially like, the murder rate has increased over the past 2 years or so, but generally speaking, the amount of people, say, who aren't murdered is much higher than the amount of people who are murdered. Like it's generally it's safer than people, the world is safer than a lot of people give it credit for it, even, despite what's going on in Ukraine right now. But I generally think humans, I'm not saying there isn't evil, but I don't think anybody's born evil. I think it's a learned thing.
Go ahead, angry Jersey girl, please.
I'm going to say, left to their own, they're inherently neutral. I think if you don't have the modeled behavior of good or evil, you don't have anything except what you decipher. And how do you know if it's good or bad or right or wrong? It's just survival. So I think in that instance, it's neutral. You don't have that influence or that stimulus of, don't touch that, it's hot, don't do that, it's mean, or this is how we show love. So you kind of wing it, maybe. But I think neutral. If you're not taught good or evil, you don't have a predisposed idea of good or evil. Sorry, I'm taking up all your time.
Oh boy, it's going to be close to the same, honestly, because married, sharing lifestyles and perspectives. Yeah, I mean, from a scientist's point of view, we're animals and we construct our own versions of good and evil. Depending on where you are in history, you could find things that we now consider abhorrent to be totally socially acceptable. But I think there is also a chemical drive associated with our species that provides us general moral, but I'm not using the right word, guidance. It's not necessarily moral in the sense that we use by modern language. It's not a divinity or a belief telling us this. It's just, I shouldn't do this. Like, there is nothing other than society stopping me from right now running over and kicking a puppy. But I doubt there's anybody, regardless of race, creed, or religious philosophy, that would look at me and go, cool. No, that's an awful thing to do. Where did that belief and feeling come from? Is it physiological? Is there a chemical response for fight or flight that we've learned from the eons? Or is it a inherent moral philosophy from a different perspective? You can argue that divinities are nothing more than three-dimensional representations of a four-dimensional creature. But we're never going to figure that out because we're three-dimensional, and we'll never know that. Is Jesus and Yahweh and Ra all the same person, just kind of poking into our dimension at the same time? I don't know. I'm too dumb to figure that out. but it's fun to think about late at night.